Hey YouTube, Philly J here with Different Dimension Gaming, coming at you with an update to my Fire Fist deck. This is updated post the Rarity collection, and I just thought I would kick off the new year with continuing the update of some older decks. But with that being said, let's jump into it. I'm going to start with 3 copies of our Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Elephant. When this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 face-up fire formation spell trap you control to the graveyard and summon a Fire Fist monster from your hand, except for itself. And then, as a separate effect, you can target 1 fire formation spell trap in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and then you can add a level 5 or higher Fire Fist monster from your deck to your hand. So its own effect works really well in tandem with itself, because you can activate a fire formation, send it off of the normal summon, and then get some more recursion in your deck while also keeping another fire formation back in your deck from the graveyard. So I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Dragon. Oh, I should say, elephants, both effects are a hard once per turn. That matters because neither of Dragon's effects are a hard once per turn, they are a soft once per turn. So, Dragon's effect is once per turn, you can activate a fire formation. If you activate a fire formation spell trap, except during the damage step, you can set a fire formation trap directly from your deck, and you can send 2 face-up fire formation spell traps you control to the graveyard, and target a Fire Fist monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. So Dragon can target anything except for himself in the graveyard, and then if you target something like Elephant, you can also gain its effects. For the last of the 3 O's, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Raven. This is one of the better searchers in your deck. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can set 1 Fire Formation spell card directly from your deck, and fire formation spell traps you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So there is no once per turn on Raven, so you can loop it as many times as you need to facilitate your combos. It's a really good way to summon it off of Elephant's effect, and you can link them, and then you can gain the effects of Raven and extend further from there. Two copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Panda. Panda is if you activate 1 fire formation spell trap, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you can special summon a Fire Fist monster from your graveyard. Then if a Fire Fist or Fire Formation card you control would be destroyed, you can send 1 face-up Fire Formation or this card you control to the graveyard instead. It's good battle protection. It's got 2100 attack, and you can summon it if you activate a fire formation or off of Elephant's effect. 1 copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Eland. This is our only ritual monster, one of our alternative summoning conditions in this deck. You can ritual summon it with Fire Formation Dome, and you can discard 1 monster, set 1 Fire Formation spell trap directly from your deck. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can send a face-up Fire Fist or Fire Formation card you control to the graveyard, except for itself, and negate the effect. You can only use each effect once per turn. So it's important to know that Eland negates the effect and not the activation, because a lot of cards, if you negate the activation, they can just activate it again. And then for the rest of the 1-ofs, we're playing 1 buffalo, 1 bear, 1 rooster, 1 spirit, and 1 leopard. The buffalo, if it's in your graveyard, you can send a total of 2 Fire Fist or Fire Formation cards from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard and summon it from your graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear. Once per turn, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can set 1 Fire Formation spell directly from your deck, and once per turn, you can send 1 face-up Fire Formation spell trap you control to the graveyard, target a monster on the field, and destroy it. So both of Bear's effects are soft once per turn. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Rooster. When this card is special summoned by the effect of a Fire Fist monster, you can add one Fire Fist monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. And soft once per turn effect, you can send one face-up Fire Formation spell trap you control to the graveyard, set a different one directly from your deck. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit is our only tuner in the deck. We do Synchro Summon in this, but we are a little hesitant to do it as we have some better options with all of our level 4 monsters. We can do some more rank plays or link plays. But Spirit says it cannot be used for Synchro Summon except for the Synchro Summon of a Beast Warrior monster. When this card is normal summoned, you can target one level 3 fire monster with 200 or less defense in your graveyard, special summon that target in defense position. And if you do, monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn, except for Beast Warrior monsters. You can only use this effect once per turn. And Leopard. During your main phase, if this card was normal or special summoned this turn, you can tribute one Fire Fist monster to set a Fire Formation spell trap directly from your deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. So again, this deck relies heavily on using your spell traps to gain advantage, and then using your monsters to tribute the spell traps to gain further advantage. We're on a small hand trap lineup in that we're just playing 3 copies of Effect Veiler. During your opponent's main phase, you can send it from your hand to the graveyard to negate the effect of a monster your opponent controls. It's important to know you can only do this during your opponent's main phase, and it only affects their monsters. For the spells and traps, we're playing 1 copy of Fire Fortress atop Liang Peak. This is your field spell in the deck, and it's always treated as a Fire Formation card, so it is searchable off of all your monsters. And it gains different effects based on the number of times you have summoned Fire Fist monsters since it has been on the field. You can only activate one of the effects per turn. So, I should say, it gains a counter every time you summon a Fire Fist monster while it's on the field, and it gains effects equal to the amount of counters that it has, and you remove the counters to activate the effects. By removing 2 counters, if your Beast Warrior monster attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during the damage step. 6 or more, you can add a Beast Warrior from your deck to your hand. And 10 or more, you can special summon 1 Beast Warrior monster from your deck or extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. When this deck has a full combo, you can very easily get access to 10 counters on Fire Fortress atop Liang Peak, and we do have a bit of spice in the extra deck to use with it in tandem. For some of the 3 ofs, we're playing 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. When it's activated, you can add a Beast Warrior level 4 or lower from your deck to your hand. And you can only activate 1 Fire Formation Tenki per turn. And one of the better searches in your deck because it does give you access to all of your starters. 3 copies of Fire Formation Tensu. During your main phase, you can normal summon a Beast Warrior type monster in addition to your regular normal summon, and you can only gain the effect once per turn. So you can activate Tensu 200 times, but you can only normal summon 1 additional time. And it's worth noting that both Tensu and Tenki give all your Beast Warrior monsters an additional 100 attack. Two copies of Fire Formation InGen. When this card is activated, you can fusion summon 1 Beast Warrior fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as materials. And if this face-up card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 Fire Fist monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. You can only activate 1 InGen per turn. One copy of Fire Formation Dome. When this card is activated, you can ritual summon one Beast Warrior ritual monster from your hand by tributing monsters from your hand or field whose levels equal or exceed its level. If this face-up card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target a Fire Fist monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use each effect of Fire Fist and Dome once per turn. You can only activate one Dome per turn. So it's important to know that all of your Fire Formation spell traps are continuous spells, which is how you gain the effects off of each one. Because they're continuous spells, it helps you use your Fire Fist monsters to send them to the graveyard and gain further advantage. For the last Fire Formation spell, we are playing one Fire Formation Yoko. Again, it's a continuous spell. When this card is activated, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls, discard one Beast Warrior monster, and if you do, destroy that card. All your Beast Warrior monsters gain 100 attack. So off of Tenki, Tensu, and Yoko, all your monsters can gain 300 attack. And for the one Fire Formation trap, we are playing Fire Formation Sinto. When a spell/trap card is activated, while you control a face-up Fire Fist monster and a Fire Formation spell trap, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You only activate one ultimate Fire Formation Sinto per turn. Again, it's a good negate, and it's very searchable in our deck. And then for some non-engine cards, I am playing 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. I wasn't playing it before because the Rarity collection had not come out, and I could not afford the card because it was like $60. Being around $6 or $10 now, I'm more comfortable spending that to get a playset. But you can banish 3 or 6 cards of your choice from your extra deck, face down. For the rest of this turn, after it resolves, your opponent takes half damage. It's usually you activate this card during your first turn, so you're not really worried about how much damage your opponent takes. But after you banish the cards, you can reveal the top 6 cards of your deck, 3 or 6 cards, forgive me. You can add 1 card that is revealed from your deck to your hand, and you can put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. And you cannot draw for the rest of this turn. And then for the last of the spells we're playing one Foolish Burial and one Called by the Grave. And just to get something like your Buffalo in Grave, or depending on what you have on the field, you can get some Recursion, and then Called by the Grave is just to stop your opponent from using hand traps against you. And for the final card in the deck, I am still playing my 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This deck does struggle to put up a lot of negates, so we take what we can where we can. Solemn Judgment, when your opponent would activate a spell trap card or summon a monster, pay half your life points and just say no. It's important to know this card is not once per turn, and it is a quick place trap. It is a counter trap, so your opponent cannot respond to it unless they also have a counter trap. Moving on to the extra deck, we're playing 2 copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King. Needs 2 level 4 Beast Warrior type monsters. Our entire deck is Beast Warrior monsters except for Effect Veiler. When this card is Xyz summoned, you can set 1 Fire Formation spell trap directly from your deck. And once per turn, you can attach 1 material from this card, negate the effects of all monsters on the field except for Beast Warrior monsters. Then if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send a total of 3 Fire Formation spell trap cards you control to the graveyard and summon 2 Fire Fist monsters from your deck with the same attack. This is a really good card to use with something like Dragon because you can Xyz into it, link it away, and then do a whole bunch of summoning because you can summon 2 dragons from the deck and they can summon back from the graveyard. It's also important to know that no effects of Tiger King are once per turn. 1 copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Cardinal. 2 level 4 Fire Fist monsters. You can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 2 Fire Fist monsters or Fire Formation cards in your graveyard or face on your side of the field. and 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard and on their side of the field, shuffle them all into their respective decks. So you can shuffle 2 from your graveyard and 2 from your opponent's field, and you're all set. It's important to know that Cardinal targets your cards, but it does not target your opponent's cards. 1 copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Lion Emperor. 2 level 3 fire monsters. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Ex's material from this card, then target 1 fire monster in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. But you cannot normal or special summon that monster or monster with that monster's same name for the rest of this turn. So what a lot of people will do is they will use Lion Emperor to recycle something like Ash Blossom, and for a long time, Salamangreat was playing this as a replacement for Mirage Stallion while it was banned. For the 1 Synchro on the deck, we're playing 1 Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Horse Prince, 1 Fire Tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters. When this card is Synchro Summoned, you can special summon 1 level 3 fire monster from your deck, and after you Synchro Summon this card, you cannot special summon level 5 or higher monsters for the rest of this turn. So if you were going to do your fusion or ritual plays, you have to do it before you make Horse Prince. And speaking of fusions, we are playing 2 copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Swan. Needs 2 Beast Warrior monsters. If this card is special summoned, you can inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each face-up fire formation spell trap you control. And during the battle phase, quick effect, you can send 1 face-up fire formation spell trap you control to the graveyard, target 1 card your opponent controls, and destroy it. You can only use this effect once per turn. I'm a big fan of Swan. I think it is correct to play 2 because I think that if you end up in a grind game, the second Swan is almost a solo game-ending card. And for our bit of spice off of our Fire Fortress atop Liang Peak, I am playing the 1 Gladiator Beast Heraclinos. So we don't care about the fusion materials because we're kind of cheating it out with our 10 counters. But you can discard 1 card from your hand to negate the activation of a spell or trap card and destroy it. You can use this effect on either player's turn. So the way this card is written out is weird because it's a very old card. But basically, if your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you can discard a card from your hand and negate the activation and destroy it. Again, we are cheating it out, but we have to go almost into our full combo to successfully cheat this card out. But again, we don't need it to facilitate a very strong and oppressive board. And now for the links, we are playing 2 copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Eagle. This is probably the best card in your deck. It needs 2 Beast Warrior monsters. You can only special summon Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Eagle once per turn. You can activate Fire Fist monster effects without sending Fire Fist or Fire Formation spell traps from your field to the graveyard. So what that means is, they gave Fire Fist a card that says you do not have to pay the cost to activate your cards. But it also gives you them as options, because if you send InGen or Dome, you gain advantage off of them. Second effect of Eagle is you can target 1 Fire Formation spell trap you control or in your graveyard, return it to the hand, and you can send a Fire Fist monster from your deck to the graveyard. So Eagle's effect, you have to pay the cost, but because it's returning a card from your field to your hand, you're also keeping it in, so you go from field advantage to hand advantage. So it's not really paying costs, it's just putting it back in your hand so you can activate it later on a future turn. And Eagle is probably the best card in your deck because it says you can play all your cards for free. 1 Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Peacock. Needs 2 fire monsters. Sorry, 2 Fire Fist monsters. While this card points to a Fire Fist monster, your opponent cannot target this card with attacks. When this card declares an attack, you can send one face-up fire formation spell trap you control to the graveyard, then target one monster your opponent controls, place that opponent's monster into a zone that this card points to, and take control of it until the end phase. But it cannot declare attacks this turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it's a snatch steal if you've given yourself an available zone and if you have it on the field. And honestly, you don't really keep Peacock on the field. It's more used for link climbing because we are playing a couple pretty powerful links in our extra deck. And second effect, if an Xyz monster that activates its effect by detaching materials activates its effect, you can target a spell trap your opponent controls and destroy it. So we don't go into this a lot, but we go into it enough that we use it to facilitate some of our combos, because if you get 2 Ravens on the field, you can easily make this and then go into a rank 4 play. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. Needs 2 non-link monsters. During your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves. Link summon 1 link monster using materials you control, including this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. And a link monster that uses this card as material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So using this and going into one of our boss monsters is very powerful, because having a monster that cannot be destroyed by card effects and has a large attack stat is very difficult to deal with. And for our 2 link boss monsters, we are playing 1 Tri-Brigade Shirag, the Ominous Omen, and 1 Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. The Ominous Omen requires 2 or more Beast, Wing Beast, or Beast Warrior monsters. If this card is special summoned or another Beast, Beast Warrior, Wing Beast monster is special summoned, you can banish a card on the field. So it does not target. So if you pick an opponent's monster and they remove from the field, you can just pick another monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Beast, Beast Warrior, Wing Beast monster from your deck to your hand, whose level is less than or equal to the number of banished Beast, Beast Warrior, Wing Beast monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. So the second effect you don't use a lot because we're not doing a lot of banishing in this deck. Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax needs 2 or more monsters summoned from the extra deck, so 2 Link 2s will do it. While this Link Summon card is on the field, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Also, their monsters cannot target monsters you control for attacks except for this card. If this card is attacked or attacks an opponent's special summon monster, it gains the attack of that opponent's monster. And because it can't be targeted, pairing it with our IP Masquerena makes it so it cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So they have to figure out a way to negate it without targeting it and destroy it without battling it, because it will always be bigger than the opponent's monster. Very powerful card. I think it's a very underrated card, and because of the rarity collection, it's also a very budget-friendly card. But with that being said, that'll be it for the deck profile. Let us know what you thought down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.